My name is Dan Katka. I'm the 502nd Air Base Wing's Resilience Director. My story revolves around my family, specifically my two sons. I had 5 children. My wife and I had 5 children. In August of 1991, we had our first child. Everything was perfect. My son Joshua, the doctors were amazed at how strong he was, and he just was kind of the perfect baby. And in 1993, we were pregnant again. We were excited. We were thinking about reliving that same exact kind of the euphoria of having a child again. 7 months into the pregnancy, we found out we were having twins. So, wow, it's going to be even double joy this time, if you will. So, on March 18th, 1993, we had 2 boys that were born, Jordan and Andrew, Katka. But it was different this time. Remembering back to the first child and holding him and how strong he was, and the scream was perfect, and the doctors were amazed. But this time, it was different. When they came out, they looked dead. It was really hard to see. We didn't have any warning signs throughout the pregnancy that there would be problems. Their heads were misshapen. They needed to have what's called cranial vault remodeling, which basically is they cut from ear to ear and they take off your skull because their skulls were not growing in the right direction. They were deformed, and they had to reshape the skull, put the skull back on, front and back. That started a lifelong surgery and hospital lifestyle, hundreds of surgeries. Well, it was soon thereafter, or maybe a year or so after, of just seeing the differences in them as compared to my son and other children. We found out they had muscular dystrophy. They couldn't pinpoint what type at the time. And so we knew at the time that we were going to have a different experience with them. But, man, amazing kids nonetheless. Jordan and Andrew's temperament is one of joy, resilience, strength, non-complainers from a young age. They're happy. They were happy people, grateful, extremely grateful people. So they grew up, right? They were going to school, normal public school, doing well. Junior high, great friend group. Going to high school, they were in the band together. They loved, they were in what's called the pit, or the percussion area. They graduated high school, and it was tough to find employment because of their physical disabilities. They couldn't do very much. They developed other issues. They had heart defects, specifically Andrew. December 31st, 2018. We were out. We got a call from John, is the caregiver, and he said, hey, something happened to Jordan. I think his leg maybe broke. The ambulance is on its way. So we got there, we met the ambulance, and Jordan, his leg was concaved. It was pretty bad. Doctors looking at him and such, and decided there needs to be a surgery. Something went wrong in the anesthesia. During the anesthesia, a portion of prior to the surgery, he was rushed to the surgical ICU, and his lungs were extremely compromised. We were in the hospital for 85 days in the ICU.
I love you, Jordan.
Jordan and Andrew faced death many times throughout their childhood, and they faced it head on, and they won. But I remember first time ever in the hospital stay with Jordan. I would spend the night with him when we have quiet moments alone, and we would try to watch TV or whatever, but he was mostly out of it. They put him in induced comas for days and days. But early on, while he was in there, I remember him looking at me and with a tear in his eyes, mouthing it. He couldn't literally say these words. You couldn't hear him. But he says, "Dad, I don't want to die." On March 23rd, it was a Saturday, 2019, I get to the hospital, walking down the corridor, and I notice my wife standing outside of the room with some nurses and doctors. And as I was coming down the hallway, she was coming to meet me, and she was crying, and she said, "Jordan's gone. Jordan's gone." And I was like, what are you talking about? So the doctors and the nurses, we all went into this room next to Jordan's, because they were in there doing what they do after somebody passes away, and cleaning up. Talking with the doctor, he just said that his lungs developed these things called cast. It's basically where it hardens and you can't breathe anymore. And of course I was frustrated, I was angry, I was all these emotions, confused because of how good he was doing. Anticipating the look on Andrew's face. That's his best friend. And a little bit more glimpse into Jordan and Andrew's life. Andrew looked up to Jordan. Jordan was, I think, a few minutes older. But Jordan was the go-getter. He was the outgoing one, the socialite, the make a friend wherever you go. Andrew was kind of in the background, but he liked it that way, and he's okay with that. He would take Jordan's lead on a lot of things, so he really was the true big brother in that sense, even though they were twins. So that all happened in March of 2019 when Jordan passed away. In October of 2020, just barely a year ago, my daughter, who was an airman at Kirtland at the time, had a baby, Micaiah. We'd planned a trip to go see the baby with my wife and my daughter. Andrew, they would be coming home soon thereafter, so Andrew decided to stay home with his caregiver and such, and was, he was fine with that. And it was only going to be a 2 or 3 day trip, and we went to go see them that night. So that was Friday. Saturday morning, early morning, getting up for the day, we got a call from John, his caregiver, frantic, and he said Andrew won't wake up. So my wife was talking to him, and she was talking, and she screamed, "What?" And she fell to the floor on her knees. So I took the phone from her and started talking. I said, "John, what's happening?" And he told me that they went out the night before. They went over to John's house. They went out to eat. They had a great time. Andrew tried new things for the first time. Andrew didn't eat hardly anything. When he was younger, he was diagnosed with what's called failure to thrive. They both had feeding tubes in their stomach, so they get fed at night, and so his palate didn't taste a lot of different foods. But John said, we went out, we did things Andrew's never done before. We had such a good night. Put him in bed, I don't know, 11, 12 o'clock or whatever. We watched a little TV. And so I came in to get him, like every morning that I do. I think it was like 9 or 10. John stayed in the house next to Andrew on the couch, and it was time to get up. So he went in there, and all his medical machines were still on him. His feeding tube, his breathing, his oxygen, they're all going. And John said he just started, "Okay, it's time to get up, Andrew," started talking as he was getting his clothes together and all those kind of things. And normally Andrew would give some kind of a grunt or okay, moan or whatever, that it's time to get up. But this time John said he didn't say anything, and he was on his side. Generally when John comes in, it's time to get up, he'll move on to his back, but he didn't move this time. And so John went over and touched him, and He said he was non-responsive, and he looked like he was gone. He wasn't breathing. His color had changed. So in a matter of 18 months or so, we lost our twins. He was fine. He was doing fine. The assumption is that his heart finally gave out. How I feel about it or whatever, but you hear about this thing called broken heart syndrome, right? If there was ever a candidate for such a thing, I guess it would have been Andrew, because he sure missed Jordan. One of the toughest things about their whole life, and then most recently their passing, was the loneliness of feeling like nobody can relate to what you're going through. You can go work through those things. Maybe you need to just talk some of these things through because you've isolated yourself. I've been not clinically depressed or diagnosed with depressed, but we all get depressed from time to time. And you talk, whether it's your family or social circles or your supervisor at work, if hopefully they're great and good listeners. But if not, you may need to step it up a notch and go to that counselor, or whatever type of counselor, lower level, and then maybe even mental health or behavior health. There's no shame in that. I did it, and it was good. It helped me tremendously. You don't realize what you got until it's gone. Jordan and Andrew were amazing. We all have family. You have mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever, nephews, nieces. And while they're here, we take them for granted. Man, when they're gone, you're like, oh, I never realized what they did for my life and what they put into my life. And so their memory keeps me company.